St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican will close its doors in an hour from now as the last of the Catholic faithful pay their respect to former Pope Benedict XVI, who has been lying in state. Well, Benedict actually led the Catholic Church for 8 years to 2013 before becoming the very first pope in 6 centuries to step down, citing declining health. While his successor, Pope Francis, will lead an open-air requiem mass tomorrow in front of thousands, well, before Benedict's body is laid to rest in the zinc-lined coffin in catacomb below St. Peter's Square. And of course, in a moment, we'll join Arise News Chief Correspondent John Cookson, who's live in the Vatican. But first, here is his report from St. Peter's Square.
From all over the world, they've come in their tens of thousands for the last day of the lying in state of the late former Pope Benedict. This evening, the doors of St. Peter's will close in readiness for tomorrow's Requiem Mass, followed by an interment in the catacombs beneath the Basilica. Today, the mood was both somber and joyous. This Nigerian nun, Claire Ojo, said, "For me, the Pope is a figure who sacrificed so much for the Church, not only for the Church, but also to unite humanity. This is a great thing," she said.
It's amazing. It's you feel the universal church in a very different way, and just in St. Peter's it feels like heaven is opening up. So it was very quiet and respectful and beautiful. It was impressive. Yeah.
Benedict led the Catholic Church for 8 years to 2013 before becoming the first pope in 6 centuries to step down, citing declining health. His legacy is mixed. He was criticised for not doing enough to tackle the issue of child abuse by Catholic priests. And there were other missteps, such as offending Muslims by derogatory comments relating to the Prophet Muhammad. But even his critics acknowledged he was a towering theologian, generally seen as a safe pair of hands in a rapidly changing world. Tomorrow, his successor, Pope Francis, will lead the Requiem Mass, citing the Gospel of St. Luke and Jesus on the cross, saying, "Father, into your hands I commend my spirit." Until the end of his life, Pope Benedict always had the support of loyalists who thought he'd been forced out by retirement. But there will be others who will remember his pontificate for its dysfunctionality and its corruption. John Cookson, Arise News, St. Peter's Square, Vatican City.
And John joins me now. John, thank you so much. And of course, you've actually been at St. Peter's Square most of the day. Let's talk about what's the mood there like this evening?
Hey, Mako, good to see you. Well, it was a beautifully sunny day today in Vatican City and the rest of Rome, and people were just enjoying the sunshine, slightly chill, but a beautiful day overall. A lot of the thousands of people that came into St. Peter's Square came from all over the world to pay their respects. Often they said to me that they were here not for any other reason, but just to say thanks to Pope Benedict for what he's done, because certainly in conservative Catholic eyes, he's seen as a towering theologian, a safe pair of hands for the Catholic Church, and someone who dragged the Catholic Church back into its traditional ways. And there are millions of Catholics who really appreciate that. A lot of Catholics in Africa, of course, 20% of the continent are Catholic, and I bumped into one or two this afternoon, the First Lady from Kenya, the gentleman from Benin. Let's hear what they have to say.
Good, because he was always kind with everybody. Even if he decided to stop, he was always available for the people, and this is very important.
He is a good pope. He makes lots of change in the church. He is one of the famous pope we ever have. and we pray for the rest of his soul.
And of course, John, what more can you really tell us about tomorrow's Requiem, funeral and Mass? Pope Benedict has always said that he wanted a simple ceremony. Will it be that? Or are we expected to see any sort of extravagance tomorrow?
Well, they're interring a pope, so by normal standards, it will be very sophisticated. You're right, he did want a simple ceremony, and tomorrow tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, will pack into St. Peter's Square and also in the streets surrounding to watch the Requiem Mass. We're hearing tonight that some VIPs are planning to turn up. Queen, let me get the name right. I'll come back to that one. Oh, sorry, Queen Sophia of Spain, King Philip of Belgium. But surprisingly, Amaka, no British royal attending. Now, King Charles attended the former Pope's funeral, King Pope Paul II. He even changed his wedding plans to be there, but he's not coming tomorrow, nor are any minor royals coming to the event tomorrow, which is kind of a surprise. The British government sending the Education Secretary instead. So I am, as I say, quite surprised about that. But there will be other heads of state here. We don't know who until tomorrow dawns and the VIPs start to arrive. It's quite a complicated process tomorrow. The coffin, which will be transported from St. Peter's Basilica to an open-air mass, and it will be then either placed on some kind of altar or indeed on the ground. And there will be about 2 hours or so of service, reading from the Bible, and chanting, some of it in Greek according to tradition. And then the 12 ushers will raise the coffin made of cypress wood, a very heavy coffin, in fact, up the steps and back into the basilica. Well, it will then be put into a zinc-lined coffin and also into a wooden box before it's transported to the catacombs deep below St. Peter's Basilica, where some 60 other popes are interred. So, as I say, an event that will take about 2 hours tomorrow, starting at 9:30 here in the Vatican City, and also at the same time in Nigeria. Amaka.
Right. Well, of course, John, the first time we're seeing, a pope preside over the service of another pope, the first in over 600 years. So talk to us about what impact will Benedict's death really have on the current Pope Francis's future, and also marry that with some of the legacies, that Benedict has left behind that he'll be remembered by. If you can do that for me in about 10 minutes, that would be appreciated, John.
Okay, well, starting at the top, I mean, look, the Pope who's being interred tomorrow actually retired for the first time in 600 years. That's never happened before, and so it could set a precedent for the future. Pope Francis, who's not in the best of health, might decide at some point to follow his example and retire early. He has a trip coming up very soon, which is going to be difficult for him. He's supposed to be going to the Democratic Republic of Congo and also Sudan later this month. I travelled with him to Iraq a couple of years ago, and he was clearly in some pain from a leg complaint that he has. So he could, in theory, step down, although he's brushed aside thoughts about that. As for the legacy of Pope Benedict, former Pope Benedict, well, there's good and there's bad. He is hugely criticized for not doing enough, people say, to stamp down on child abuse by Catholic priests, although he did, during his time, defrock 400 priests. And as far as the benefits are concerned, as I say, he was a well-respected theologian who reintroduced some conservative values back into the Catholic faith, like Faith-Reich introducing a Latin Mass, which incidentally Pope Francis immediately reversed when he became Pope.
Well, John, of course, we'll come back to you as soon as we get more feeds, honestly. But like we did report earlier, tonight the doors will be shut. And of course, we look forward to his funeral, which, of course, will take place at the St. Peter's Basilica. And of course, these are live pictures coming out of the Vatican, of course, the St. Peter's Square, where the Pope, speaking of Benedict XVI, is currently lying in state. And like I said earlier, the doors will be shut to mourners sometime tonight. So that way, the organizers of his funeral will actually have some time to prepare ahead of that all-important funeral, which is coming up tomorrow at the St. Peter's Basilica.